Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel, and this is my first impressions look on the New Balance Two Wxy 2. So of course the two-way, or the first two-way that came out was an amazing performer. It's kind of like their team model, kind of like, you know what I mean? Their New Balance athletes wear this shoe, you know, and of course they have their only other kind of like basketball shoe, which was the Kawhis. And the Kawhi 2, they're pretty damn nice, but it's pretty damn expensive, you know. It's 160 bucks, I believe. The two-way 2, however, is going for 130 bucks in this colorway on New Balance, and I just checked, every single size is available. So if you guys do want to cop, I'll try to leave an affiliate link in the description box. But let's get started off with the Tracciones, and in this colorway we have a solid rubber here in like the forefoot and midfoot, and then here in the heel we have a translucent outsole, right? And as far as the pattern goes, here where the ball of your foot is, there's an N, and then we have the New Balance logo here on kind of like the lateral side of the outsole. And where the ball of your foot is, it kind of like circles out a little bit, right? And we have like a jagged kind of line pattern, and the grooves are super thin. And then here in the heel, we got some holes, but they're not actual holes. It's not a hole where you can feel like the midsole here. This is actually still the outsole. But anyways, how does the outsole feel? It feels amazing, guys. So it's a very loud and high-pitched squeak, which I like. And the bite seems very good on my wood floors right now. Of course, it's just my first impressions look. We have yet to see the performance on an actual basketball court and also on dust, right? So I don't really know about that, obviously. But it is kind of dusty on my wood floors here, right? My dogs are shedding, it's summer and stuff like that. And at first when I got it, it was like squeaking and biting really hard. And I kept doing it. I was like walking around inside of my apartment, and it seemed to pick up a little bit of dust. You know what I mean? So we'll have to see on that though. And as far as durability goes, just take this with a grain of salt because it's weird, right? So the rubber is actually quite hard. It doesn't move that easily, which surprised me because the grooves are so damn thin, right? But also there's not a whole lot of surface area. You know what I mean? So even though the rubber is on the harder side of things, I don't think it'll be that good for outdoor use just because the grooves are so thin, right? So there is the outsole there. I'm pretty damn excited about it. It feels really nice so far. Also, there is a midfoot chain plate. We can't see it, but on their tech specs, it does say there is a midfoot chain plate. So that does double for good torsional support. And moving on to the heel to toe transition, it feels overall pretty damn smooth so far, right? So here in the heel, we got a nice curved shape. And although it is very caged, as you guys can see, look at that. We have this plastic here on top of the midsole, and also the rubber does come up to cage the midsole. Sadly, here in the back of the heel, just in my personal opinion, it's just not my favorite when they do that, you know, because I like to feel a lot of compression here in the heel, especially when I'm doing heel dominant strides, right? And then of course here on the lateral side, I mean, it makes sense to cage it because you don't want this to be too soft or else it'll be unstable, right? But either way, there's still a good amount of compression, which we'll get into. So here in the heel feels nice, and then in the forefoot we have a very curved shape, and look at that, a crazy amount of forefoot flex, so it feels overall really smooth. But here in the midfoot, the torsional support seems to be very, very good, so I like that so far. Moving on to the cushioning setup, so we got full length fuel cell just like the first two-way, right? But we have what they're calling the Absorb DRS, and it says right here on the outsole, like this clear part, the translucent part. It's pretty hard to see, but it stands for Absorb Dynamic Response System. And I'm not sure if it's a different type of foam. It just says it's Absorb DRS and then full length fuel cell, right? But if you guys see here in the heel, it's like a different color. It's like this orange color in this colorway, and then we can see the fuel cell, right? But either way, it feels really, really nice. So first of all, the court feel is really good. You're very low to the ground, which I like, you know, but it seems to have a lot of compression in the heel, even though there's so much caging, right? So that feels really nice so far. In the forefoot, it feels a little bit more dead. It's not as much compression, of course, but here in the heel, it feels really nice. So there's a good amount of compression with really good court feel, which you don't really see all too much, right? And then as far as the step and comfort goes, step and comfort is pretty good. It's not the best and the most comfortable that I've ever felt, but I like it so far. So we have an ortholite insole, which is pretty comfortable. It does improve the step-in comfort a little bit. But if you remove the insole, we can see that there's like a pink color, and there is a cutout in the strobel board in the heel. It's a pretty small cutout, to be honest, right? So it's not super easy to feel right underneath your heel, but it's still, you can feel it a little bit and it feels nice. But of course, where the strobel board is actually pretty stiff. So hopefully that does break in a little bit, because like in the forefoot, it's a little bit more stiff as far as step-in comfort goes. But overall, I'm liking it so far. I feel like impact protection, especially on heel strikes, is going to be good. I like the extra compression. Hopefully there is bounce though. You know, of course, I don't know that yet. I haven't played in it. I mean, it says it's bouncy in the tech specs, but we can never really trust what they say, right? But yeah, I hope it's bouncy, but everything else seems really good. You know, good court feel and all that. It's nothing crazy though. If you're looking for something crazy, like a lot of compression, something super soft or super bouncy, I don't really feel anything crazy here in the 2A2 yet. But it's feeling really nice and responsive so far. All right, moving on to the upper. So we have what they're calling, so here it says Fit Weave Light, right? But they're also calling it a kinetic stitch upper. So they're calling it two things, which is pretty interesting. But I like what they did for the materials, right? So here in the toe box, it's really, really thin. Look at that. It's extremely thin and it conforms to your foot really well. I love how it feels, but also it feels really supportive. There's not a lot of stretch to it at all. We do have fuse here at the edge of the toe box, which does improve durability and support, of course, if you do toe drags, right? But I don't really like the fuse that they use. It just looks and feels pretty cheap. You know what I mean? And then for the kinetic stitch, it has kind of like a screen, like a really thin see-through screen mesh over it, right? Which of course, I feel like it'll improve upon the support as well. As far as the pattern goes, it reminds me a little bit of like old school Flyknit, right? Just a tiny bit, right? So like I said, here in the forefoot, it's really soft, right? But if you come here into the midfoot, it actually gets pretty rigid and supportive, which is a good thing. You want a lot of support here on the lateral side, especially in the midfoot. And here on top of your toe, you don't really need as much support, right? So I love what they did. And if you look underneath the material right here in the midfoot, we can see like a pink material actually. And it's glued down, adding for a little bit more support, which I like. You know, it doesn't feel super rigid or anything. It just feels a little bit more rigid. It's still extremely thin here in the midfoot, right? And then for the tongue, we have actually, I would say, an average amount of padding, and it's a very large tongue as well. And also it is a half booty construction tongue, which of course most modern basketball shoes have. And then here in the ankle area, we actually have very minimal padding, right? So on foot, this shoe is extremely minimal. It conforms to your foot really well, and it seems like a supportive material too. So I really like the Fit Weave Light or the kinetic stitch upper that they're using, but the quality is really bad, honestly, right? So the fuse, like I said, doesn't feel too good. And then here in the ankle area, this like nubuck material feels really cheap too. And also here on the tongue, right? Also, another thing I don't like is the midsole. The midsole, I don't know what it is about this texture, but it looks like styrofoam to me. And that also makes the shoe look ultra cheap, in my opinion. But either way, the quality isn't very good, in my opinion, but it feels really nice on foot, which is what I'm looking for, of course, for a performance basketball shoe, right? All right, moving on to the fit. I went true to size and it fits me extremely well, right? So my toes go pretty much right to the edge of the shoe. It's really narrow too, right? It's pretty damn tight widthwise, and I can feel it squeezing the sides of my foot a little bit. It's not too tight or anything, but it is pretty narrow, so watch out for that if you have a wide foot. And also here in the toe box, it's pretty damn snug. So I like the fit overall a lot better here in the 2 as opposed to the original 2-way. The original 2-way was actually, this is wider, and also it's roomier here in the toe box. You know, I just wore it, of course, before the video and compared the sizes, and I like the 2-way 2 a lot better. It's more snug, right? So if you have a wide foot or you want a roomier fit, I'll suggest going up half a size or maybe even a full size because it is a pretty damn snug fit. I can curl my toes just a tiny bit. It's not as snug as like, you know, the KD 13 or 14, but it's still a snug fit, right? And also I feel like this kinetic stitch upper is gonna stretch out a little bit. Yeah, I feel like it'll get a little bit roomier as far as the fit goes here in the toe box. All right, moving on to the support. For lateral containment, I feel like it's gonna be good as well, right? So here in the forefoot, we can see the foam coming up acting as a side wall, like this fuel cell. And also we can see the kinetic stitch, right? There is some more like stitching. It's more like straight lines, right? We can see that going all the way around the shoe right here, and that does make the shoe a little bit more supportive and a little bit more rigid in this area, which of course is a good thing. And then here in the heel, the foam doesn't come up that much, but we do have an internal TPU heel counter, so I feel like lateral containment is going to be good. All right, moving on to the weight of the shoe. So that's one thing that really shocked me. Like when I first took the shoe out of the box, I was like, yo, this shoe is really, really light. Even with the wax paper inside of the shoe, I was like, yo, this is extremely light feeling in hand. So I'm guessing like 11 ounces. It feels extremely light. Ooh, okay, so 10.86 ounces. Let's check the other pair, 10.72 ounces. So yeah, extremely light. The average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. So 10.7, 10.8 ounces is extremely light. And does it feel light on foot? Yeah, it feels really light. It feels very minimal as well. So yeah, it feels great on foot so far. All right, moving on to the aesthetics. I actually like it. I feel like it looks a little bit better than the original one, right? But like, I like the overall silhouette and the overall design. I like the oversized New Balance logo here. It looks great. But when you get close to the shoe, it definitely looks cheap. You know what I mean? Like the materials look cheap, like the nubuck, and also like this like kinetic stitch upper doesn't look great, and also like the styrofoam in the midsole doesn't look great either. So yeah, I like the overall design, but not the material choices, right? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, the 2A2 for 130 bucks is feeling really, really nice. I love how it feels so far. And honestly, I feel like it's gonna be a really good guard shoe. Like it's lightweight, the traction seems really good, cushion, very low to the ground and responsive feeling, but also it feels like the impact protection is gonna be good on it as well. Support and all that feels good so far. I love the fit of the shoe for me. So yeah, I'm super excited to try these out, and hopefully it performs really, really well. Of course, we're gonna have to wait on the full performance review of that. But my first impressions of the New Balance 2A2 is looking really, really nice. And I feel like overall it's an upgrade from the 2A1, or the original 2A, right? Let's check the weight of this actually. I'm pretty curious. I feel like, I mean, this shoe's still pretty damn light, but I feel like it's gonna be a little bit heavier. Yeah, so 12.24 ounces. It's probably because of like all this rubber, right? And also, one thing that I do miss though is kind of like the teetering, right? The outsole of the original 2A had like this like V shape a little bit, and it acted a little bit like an outsole curvature in Kyrie's, and they kind of did away with that here in the 2A2, but you know, not a huge deal. That's just one thing that I do miss. But like here in the original 2A as well, the material quality is just so bad. You know what I mean? Like it just looks and feels cheap. And yeah, New Balance, I feel like you guys need to work on the quality of the materials in your shoes. You know what I mean? The 2A, not so nice. And also in the Kawhis, the Kawhi 2 and also the Kawhi 1, not very nice. The original Omnis though was really nice with the knit material, but all their other ball shoes, I'm not liking their material quality. But anyways, there is my first impressions on the 2A2. Again, if you guys do want to call, but try to leave an affiliate link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.